Welcome to Meet the Press Now. I'm Kristen Welker in New York, and we are tracking a flurry of activity on Capitol Hill and at the White House as President Trump and Republican leadership try to keep their conference in line. After Elon Musk, one of the president's closest and most influential allies, called the president's signature bill a, quote, disgusting abomination that would balloon the deficit and called for the bill's supporters to be voted out of office. Mr. Musk going even further this afternoon, posting, call your senator, call your congressman. Bankrupting America is not okay. Kill the bill. We are expecting that this hour the president will meet with a key group of Senate Republicans at the White House about the way forward. And it comes after the entire Senate Republican conference huddled together this afternoon. Those meetings taking place on the heels of a new analysis by the nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office that backed up Musk's concerns, forecasting that the president's bill, which narrowly passed the House last week, would add $2.4 trillion to the national debt over the next decade. This morning, House Speaker Mike Johnson said he was caught off guard by Musk's criticisms, adding that hasn't been able to get Musk on the phone to talk about it.
And I left on a great note. We were texting one another, happy texts, Monday. And then yesterday, 24 hours later, he does a 180 and he comes out and opposes the bill. I think he's flat wrong. I think he's way off on this, and I've told him as much, and I've said it publicly and privately. I'm very consistent in that. And I'd love to talk to him this week and hope he calls him back today. I talk to President Trump, all the time, multiple times a day. Obviously, we've talked about this. As you know, he's not delighted that Elon did a 180 on that.
Musk's comments left some right-wing members of the House Republican Conference in a really tough place, with some members who voted yes on the package saying they agree with Musk's critiques.
Congressman, what do you make of Elon Musk criticizing the One Big Beautiful Bill?
Well, I have to agree with him. Unfortunately, in the One Big Beautiful Bill, we had to spend some money to right the ship and pass President Trump's campaign promises, which is border security. I'll write those checks all day long to Tom Homan. So do I like the price tag of the bill? No. But I want to get off of the Biden and Democrat CR that this government is currently funding on.
Now, sources close to President Trump telling NBC News that he is not happy with Musk's posts. A source with knowledge of the Trump-Musk relationship tells NBC News that the Tesla CEO may have taken issue with cuts to electric vehicle credits in the bill, while also potentially feeling upset with some recent White House personnel moves. Let's go to Washington now with the very latest. NBC News senior White House correspondent Gabe Gutierrez is outside the White House, and NBC News Capitol Hill correspondent Melanie Zanona is on Capitol Hill. So, Gabe, take me inside your conversations. I'm hearing that the president is beyond not happy, that he is furious, in fact, in part because Musk is basically threatening to primary people who support this bill. What are you hearing?
Certainly, Kristen. And look, according to a senior White House official I just spoke with, the president was caught off guard by Elon Musk's social media post, but not entirely surprised, according to this official, because the president knew that Musk had opposed the bill. They had some disagreements about it, so that wasn't entirely surprising. And this official told me that the president on Friday, during that soaring send-off that the president gave Elon Musk on Friday, it was this official said it because Trump was trying to be a nice guy. Now, it might be perhaps that he was trying to blunt some of that criticism, and perhaps he knew some of it was coming. But it has been significant over the last several days, Kristen, as you have been reporting. What will be very interesting to see right now is how the president reacts to that latest post on social media, which you referenced in your introduction, where Musk is specifically asking Americans to call their members of Congress and kill the bill. We have yet to hear from the president at this point, Kristen. And by the way, that in and of itself is interesting. The president has not engaged on camera with reporters since Friday evening. This is the 5th day that he has not spoken on camera. As you know, Kristen, that is highly unusual.
It sure is. We will wait and watch to see if we hear anything from him today or if there are any more posts. Mel, let me head over to you on Capitol Hill. What's the impact been of really this flurry of tweets on lawmakers, on senators who are trying to figure out if they're going to support this legislation?
Yeah, well, so far, Republicans publicly are downplaying the potential impact here from Elon Musk. Remember, a lot of the reason why Musk had such influence in the past with lawmakers is because they really viewed him as an extension of President Donald Trump. And in this case, they don't view him as an extension of Trump. They view him as on opposite sides of the debate. So when forced to choose between Donald Trump and Elon Musk, they're going to side with Donald Trump every single time. And even some Republicans who said they share some of Musk's concerns and complaints about fiscal deficit adding, they said they don't think that Musk himself is going to be able to kill this bill. At the same time, though, Kristen, it has been very notable that Republicans have been super careful to not publicly criticize Musk, who still has this very powerful platform and megaphone, and who also has a very hefty war chest. Just take a listen to some Republicans.
If you want to talk about specific provisions in the bill and solutions for it, I mean, this is somebody who has got a lot of insight into the U.S. government over the last 6 months. Give us some productive feedback that we can operate on. I can't operate on platitudes.
He believes, in my judgment correctly, that we're quickly becoming debt slaves, that Congress needs to re-earn the magical healing power of no. And I agree with him. Having said that, I'm not ready to throw in the towel on this bill.
And meanwhile, there does appear to be at least some level of concern or desire amongst the leadership to try to tamp down some of this public criticism. Earlier today, in a closed-door meeting, Speaker Mike Johnson defended this bill against some of Musk's criticisms. And then he also said he's been trying to get a hold of Musk through calls and text messages over the past 2 days. But so far, at least the last we heard from Johnson, the two have not connected. Kristen.
Well, Mel, you know, the Senate Republican conference, of course, happened today. What do you think, if anything, came out of that meeting?
Well, the goal of this meeting was to try to get everyone on the same page and try to put some meat on the bones about what this Senate package is going to look like. And I'm told from sources in the room that some of the committees with the least controversial pieces of this package started presenting what their draft legislative language is going to look like. But the committee that has the most controversial piece of the bill is the Senate Finance Committee, because that has jurisdiction over not only taxes, but also over Medicaid. And it's that committee that is actually, I'm currently told, on boarding buses outside of Capitol Hill and on their way to the White House to have a meeting there, because this committee is going to be key to the Republican efforts to getting this through the Senate. And on that committee, there's actually a really wide range of views, from moderates who are concerned about Medicaid cuts to some more fiscal hawks who want to see even deeper spending cuts. So they need to resolve those issues there within that committee before they can really move forward.
Well, Mel, you set me up beautifully for my next question to Gabe. Gabe, give us a little preview of what you anticipate the president's messaging is going to be when he meets with senators on the Finance Committee there. My source is telling me he plans to be deeply engaged in every step of this, because after all, he sees this as really what will be his signature piece of legislation if he can get it passed.
Certainly, Kristen, this is so critical to his agenda, so he will be deeply involved here. And I just spoke with an official who told me that they expect the president's message to these senators to be essentially get in line. This is something that the president has done repeatedly when different types of legislation it falls on him to try to get over the finish line. Of course, we're far away from the finish line here, but he will see this as an opportunity to really get involved and make clear what is at stake here. Essentially, so much of the Trump agenda, these 2017 tax cuts, more funding for the military and border security, and Republicans, as we've been saying, you know, they take issue with these CBO estimates that there will be such an increase in the deficit. So that's the bottom line message from the president to these senators in just a few moments, as he's expected to meet with them here in the White House, will be, Kristen, essentially get in line.
Well, hopefully you can get a couple of questions to those senators after the fact, Gabe. We'll be watching closely. Mel, let me ask you, because we also got a new score from the Congressional Budget Office today on the House-passed bill. What was the key takeaway there?
So there are actually two really key takeaways that I want to flag for you. This is from the nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office. The first is that the report, this is a revised estimate, found that the bill would likely increase the debt by $2.4 trillion over a decade, and that's higher than its initial estimate, so even worse than what initially was anticipated. And secondly, the legislation would lead to 10.9 million people losing their health insurance by 2034, which is an even higher initial estimate as well. And so far, Republicans have really dismissed the CBO, attacked the CBO, said it's really underestimating the amount of growth that this bill is going to produce and saying it's missed the mark before. But Democrats already seizing on this report and will continue to do so, especially as the campaign season heats up here.
Well, there's no doubt it's going to be a part of the debate that unfolds from the White House to Capitol Hill. Gabe Gutierrez, Mel Zanona, thank you both for getting us started on what is a really busy day. Joining me now is Nebraska Republican Congressman Mike Flood. Congressman Flood, thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me on.
Well, I'd like to start with one of the tweets by Elon Musk. As you know, he's been critiquing the bill that the House passed last month. Among a series of tweets he's made, he posted this yesterday. I'm going to read you a little bit of it. It says, "I'm sorry, but I just can't stand it anymore. This massive, outrageous, pork-filled congressional spending bill is a disgusting abomination. Shame on those who voted for it. You know you did wrong. You know it." What is your reaction to this, Congressman Flood?
For the first time in American history, we cut $1.6 trillion in government spending. This doesn't happen overnight. This is mandatory spending. We're coming in with our first tranche of discretionary spending rescission cuts next week. This is a process. This isn't a sprint. This is a marathon. And when you cut $1.6 trillion, how can you say that's anything but a massive landmark bill, especially when you consider we also stopped 25% tax hikes on all Americans at the end of the year. I mean, you put those two things together, the only way we're going to get out of this is with less spending and more GDP growth, and that's exactly where we're going.
Well, but as you know, the CBO has said that this will add to the national debt, trillions of dollars.
Well, look at what happened in 2017 when the first tax cuts were launched. We had GDP growth a whole 1% more than the CBO initially forecast. So I don't live and die by what CBO says. I look at what happened in 2017. I know that when you keep taxes low, when you have more affordable housing tax credits, when you are doing the right things on tips and for older Americans, more money in people's pockets goes a long way, and it helps us grow our economy. And ultimately, it takes growth and spending reductions. And that's what this mandatory spending reconciliation bill does.
Well, just to be clear, Congressman, other budget experts actually say that what you're saying about what happened in 2017, not exactly the case, particularly when it's adjusted for inflation. But look, let me ask you about another tweet by Elon Musk, basically threatening to have anyone who votes for this legislation fired in 2026. What do you make of that? Does that give you pause?
Well, I know that our speaker, Mike Johnson, he's been in constant contact with Elon Musk. He shared with us that Elon wants a Republican majority in the next Congress. And, obviously, ultimately, we're all beholden to our constituents back home. Overwhelmingly, they support President Trump. President Trump had a great majority of people in my district support and vote for him. This is his big, beautiful bill. This is the Trump agenda. It's the America First agenda, and it's the agenda that I'm supporting. So I think people back home understand how important this is, and I'm hopeful that Elon and whoever else may doubt this will watch this play out and know that this is just the beginning.
Well, and again, as you know, the crux of his criticism is about the national debt, that it doesn't do enough to cut the deficit. And I want to play what you told Yahoo Finance last month, and I'll get your reaction on the other side.
Well, I tell you what, we're $36 trillion in debt, on our way to $37 trillion in debt, and this is a national security issue. So we do have to cut spending. I think as a Republican conference, we have been talking about this for the last 5 years. And what do we need to do? How are we going to get there?
Look, you called the national debt a national security issue, but again, you voted for this package. And just to reiterate, the CBO is saying it will grow the debt by more than $2 trillion. So how do you square that, Congressman? How do you square supporting
exactly with what I've been saying? Unleashing America's economy, growth, plus spending cuts. You've got to have both. And I know what wouldn't grow the economy is allowing taxes to go up 25% on Americans, on Nebraskans, on people living from coast to coast in Hawaii and Alaska. That would be a job killer. That would be a dream killer. That would be terrible. So we saw it in 2017, and the economy was booming. COVID hit. Obviously a major disruptor. It took us a while to get there. And then the Biden administration comes in and spends literally billions of dollars on the IRA. So we're putting all that back together. We are going a good direction. And when you look at our discretionary spending cuts that are going to get teed up, you look at our $1.6 trillion mandatory spending cuts. I haven't seen a Congress, and I don't think you have or anybody has in a generation that's done anything like this. $1.6 trillion in spending cuts. That's real, and that is also impactful.
There are some estimates that the actual spending cuts would be a fraction of that. But let me ask you about something that you said at a town hall in May. You actually said that you hadn't read the full bill when someone was asking you why you voted in favor of a provision that would basically make it harder for judges to enforce orders holding parties before them in contempt for defying court orders. If you had known that provision was in the bill, would you have voted no, Congressman?
Well, listen, I'm going to support the One Big Beautiful Bill because it's good for America. I do not agree with that provision. And yes, I did read the bill. I read summaries of a lot of the different committees that I'm not on the bill. And I'll tell you, I support our court system. I want a federal district court to issue an injunction that has teeth. I support that process. I support the rule of law, and I'm going to steadfastly advocate that we protect the three co-equal branches of government. And I will tell you, I'm the only Republican that has flagged it, and I know that my counterparts in the Senate are taking it very seriously. I doubt it survives the Byrd review that happens over in the Senate, and I am certainly advocating that I do not think that should be in the final bill. You know, I've been a legislator for 13 years. I see bills go through the process all the time, and this is what you do. You move a piece on first round, it gets dealt with on the second round, it comes back to the House. This is something I feel strongly about, and I have communicated that to the people in my conference. I also know that we have to pass the One Big Beautiful Bill. We have to deliver tax cuts. We have to cut spending. I think we will get all of this done, and I'm confident that that provision will hopefully not be in that bill.
Congressman, just to be very clear, should you have read the bill more closely? You're saying you did read it. And if you had, would you have said, look, I'm a no on this first version. We have to make some changes here before you get to yes?
Well, here's what I did do on the bill. With things that I saw that were in the bill, I went to the committee chairman of the Committee of Jurisdiction, and I said, hey, I have an issue with this, or this is how this would affect Nebraska hospitals. I would have done that with the chairman of the Judiciary Committee. I would have done that at the WIP meeting. I would have done that at any chance I had the opportunity, because ultimately we want something that we can all agree on. I am very hopeful that this gets addressed in the Senate, and if it remains in the bill, it comes over here, I'll deal with it at that time. And might I add, I didn't see any mainstream media or not one judge or anybody identifying this before this provision was ever passed by the House. And that happens from time to time, and you deal with it. That's why we have a process. We don't do things overnight. This isn't a drive-through. You don't drive around and get your value meal and go eat it. You actually send it to the Senate. They deal with it. They send it back. I mean, I'm confident we'll deal with this. And I want to stress to you that I am a Republican that believes in the rule of law. I believe that it is important that federal district court decisions have the ability to have teeth, because we relied on that during the Biden administration to stop a lot of really bad things that he was trying to do to America.